So, I'm Matt Smith here today, the Rock and Realtor, with the one and only, as I like to call him, the godfather of Christian metal, Richard Lynch. How are
Hey,
you?
everybody, I'm good.
Good. So, what would you like to talk about today? Is there anything, I know what I want to talk about, but is there any things that you'd like to kind of get into when it comes to saint and the future saint, the past of saint, present state of saint?
Well, I think we go ahead with your questions and take it from there, and then maybe we can wrap it up at the end.
Okay, I want to start with this. So, something that most people don't realize is you and I have babies that are about the same age.
Yes.
Yeah, and here they are before turkey, and there they are after turkey. So, that's what's your little baby's name?
Minnie.
That's Minnie. I love Minnie. Minnie doesn't love me so much.
Oh, Minnie loves you. Yeah.
And that's Malie. And these were before turkey and after turkey shots.
Yes,
So-
I'd like to point out that the Min Dog is a lot more metal than Malie is.
I think so. Malie's more Lady Gaga. Malie's more especially in the top photo there.
Yes,
the top
yes.
photo. Yeah, so that's fine. It's fun to get started. So how did you manage, this is a question I have for you. How did you manage to get such a young virtuoso lead guitarist in the band back in about 2013? How did that come about? That'd be me, by the way. That's me.
I was going to point that out. But, well, I heard a lot of your recordings with Josh. You guys had worked together. And I'd met you at a show at the Grand Theater in Salem earlier. And then you and Josh went on your merry way up to Idaho. And
We sure did.
and did some recording and stuff. And I heard some of the recordings and they were quite remarkable. And so basically you were in the back of my mind that whole time. If I need another guitar player, this guy might be somebody that I'm going to want to tap into. Okay, and then we were doing Broad as the Gate, and at that time Jerry was having some trouble, some personal issues. His dad had just passed away, and he lost a lot of vigor as far as wanting to go and do the music thing.
That's totally understandable.
He was really wrapped up into that, and I needed to get the album done. And so that's why I called you.
Yeah.
I was sitting at my beach house and going, maybe I should call Matt and see if he wants to do
Call
this.
that Matt guy.
And
And I remember getting the phone call. I was so excited.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Richard Lynch. So, and anyway, so that's kind of how it was. It's funny because I haven't really heard that from your perspective before. I kind of have, but
right.
but the way I met Josh was I was like, because I loved Saint. I always loved Saint back in the 80s. It was one of my favorite bands, if not, and Josh was definitely my favorite singer. I mean, he was just my favorite singer over Jeff Tate, Halford, all those guys. I loved Josh's voice. And one day I said, wonder what that band's doing. So I go online and I Googled the band, and I found your website, and it said on there, hey, if you want to hire us to record on one of your projects. Do you remember that? Having that on your website?
No, I don't.
And I thought, oh my God.
That might have been a Josh thing.
It might have been. But I found Josh, and I sent him one of my songs, and I sent him me playing guitar and singing it. And he said, okay, $100. I'll sing it. I said, God, that's a deal. So I sent him $100. And he sent me back 24 vocal tracks. 24 vocal tracks. It was like a Christmas. I imported all of those tracks into my session, listened to each one of them. 24 tracks on a 5-minute song. You're going to be there a while.
Yeah,
Just
a lot of editing.
Yeah, just to listen to each track and then try to blend them together. And we kind of came up with a cool little song. So what I'd like to do is go back to Warriors of the Sun. And this was the first album I got. And actually it was a cassette tape that sat in my Toyota Celica for a number of months. Literally, it sat right there. So why don't we just kind of go through each album and just tell me a little bit about it. So I heard a rumor that when you first hooked up with Josh, you sung a little bit like Jim Morrison.
Yeah, he sang a lot like Jim Morrison. You know, he was very reserved.
Which is great. Everybody loved Jim Morrison. But that's not really,
That wasn't the thing, you know.
it's not sainty.
No, it wasn't sainty at all. And you know, we kind of had to do a little work with him, you know, to get him going. When we got into the studio to record the Song Warriors of the Sun, we started with that one, and he's singing it, and it's kind of Jim Morrison-y. He didn't have any of the...
Can you give us an example?
He is the warriors of the sun. You know?
Okay, so that's a song. Did you write that song?
Actually, Gene McClendon wrote the lyrics. I wrote the music and then created the melodies around some lyrics that he gave.
Oh, okay.
So,
Learning new stuff.
yeah, but so Josh, he's in there on the vocal booth, and he's trying to sing this stuff. And I looked at the engineer and I go, "Hold on a second.
Look out.
We'll get him to sing this a little better." And I went in there and I literally grabbed him and I just shoved him against the wall. And he looks at me and he starts to get up, and I shoved him back down. And now he's getting a little on the angry side. It was hilarious. And he's got that look on his face. He's like wanting to kill me. And I go, "Now sing it." And that's how it all started, right
Yeah.
there. He came, you know, he took that anger and he put it into the song, and then he went wild with it.
He sure did.
He figured it out, you know, at that point in time, that this is what I got to do.
Yeah.
You know, most of the work that Josh did, because he's got such a great range. He's got to at least have like 7-octave range.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He is amazing, you know. And so most of the work that I did with him, I would stand in front of him and make faces and mimic and get him to get the attitude, you know, that the song required. Because I wrote most of the music and most of the melodies.
Yeah, and it's kind of
At that
hard.
time.
It's kind of hard for somebody on the outside. He would have been on the outside to come in and deliver that product the way you have it in your head. So I guess going in and kind of roughing him up.
That definitely got him going. It was great. It was a great memory.
So let's talk about Time's End.
Okay.
Another. I mean, this is just that stuff that I was just like so into, you know, and not just me, but like say I lived in Spokane. We all were listening to it. Everybody was listening to it.
Yeah, Times In had a really good reception. You know, at this point we left Murata Records and were recruited by Pure Metal. You know, some of the things that go along with record labels can, you know, are better left unsaid. But regardless, those
Maybe
guys,
not.
those guys actually, you know, they put us on the map. So I'm going to give them that. But Times In was a fun album, and we drew from some of the older stuff that John Mahan and I wrote together back in the early '80s. You know, we did a band called the Gentiles before any of this.
How did you meet John Mahan?
I met John Mahan. We were going to the Christian Center of Salem, and he and Russ Cook and Bob Page and Jim Maxwell. Jim Maxwell plays in the band Fowler. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, they're relatively popular.
Yeah.
But I met those guys, and they had a band called Power Faith, and I just started hanging out with them. But I wasn't even really playing anything at the time, and so I started writing lyrics for them. And the next thing I know, I'm kind of managing the Gentile thing, and you know, the next thing, I'm playing rhythm guitar. And it was at that time, between the Gentiles and the First Saint project, that John Mahan figured out that if you just do the pedal tones on the bass, it gets super heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we started doing a lot of and we still do a lot of the pedal tone.
Sure. It's
It's
a
just
classic.
the droning. It's just classic traditional heavy metal.
Yeah.
Um, it kind of takes you away from the rock and roll feel and
Into a more driving metal sound.
right, and exactly.
Which is easy to play guitar to
Yes.
as well.
Well, yeah, you can modulate, rhythms around it easier. It's more what would be the word for that? Synthetic, symphonic,
Sure. Why not? So,
whatever.
I'll just talk about the writing process for just a minute or two. From conception, you played for me today, just today, a song that we did on the calf.
Right.
But you played that for me on your cell phone. It was just you going na 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 na, kind of jamming on the tune.
Well, I'll set.
Now it's a full blown song.
I'll sit around and a lot of times I'll go relax in the hot tub and just get music going in my head, and I'll think, wow, that's pretty cool. I got to capture that. And so I'll grab my phone really fast and, just hum it out.
Mm-hmm.
That way I don't, because once you forget,
It's gone.
it's gone.
Yeah,
You
gotta
never
get it
recapture the idea again.
right then.
So you have to be on it. And so then I take that and it reminds me what, I heard in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and then I transpose it to the guitar.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just start, making up parts that go with it.
And then I remember you telling me years ago that you carried sometimes you'd have a notepad
Mhm.
for lyrics.
Yeah, now I use my phone, but
Okay, but so you'd have a lyric and you just kind of.
right.
So your lyrics take shape over days, weeks, months, or hours?
Well, usually with a song, I like to hear the music first, and some people like to write the lyrics first. But I like to hear the music because the music is what's going to kind of set the mood. If it's happy, it's sad, it's
Mhm.
scary, it's evil, whatever it is. And then I'll write a chorus,
A hook.
the hook.
Got to have a good hook.
The chorus will generally set the stage as to what the song is going to be about.
Right.
And then once you have your hook and you have the topic that you're going to write the song about, then you can start filling in all of the blanks as to where that's going to go.
Yeah. Right. Okay, that's good. Let's see. What's the next one?
Too Late for Living.
Oh, look. Too Late. I love that song. So I remember when we played down in California at that, was that the Metal Fest? What was that?
Yeah, that was the
Metal-
Southern Cal.
SoCal Metal Fest. We
Yeah.
did that show. And I put together, this set list. And I knew a lot of these songs. I've been listening to them for years. But there are some little surprising goodies in this. The E major chord that comes up. Just some little subtle things.
Right.
Anyway, this is a great album. This is kind of the Sue Our Lady.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have much to do with the album covers back in the pure metal days. I'd like to point out, though, that I don't know if you knew this, but Josh wrote the music to the song Too Late for Living.
I know he's the one who pointed out the E chord when I wasn't playing it right.
Right.
He was.
Yeah,
we
he's good about that.
were somewhere and he was like, "Oh, it's an E major chord." I was like, "Wow, it is." It's this
Yeah.
very subtle tonality change. It's a great song. And then doesn't this have The War Is Over?
Yes.
Yeah, which is another one of my favorites.
Yes. That song originally, when Josh wrote that song, it was a lot slower than when it was recorded. Josh was not very happy with D Harrington, and he and I went in there, and in the studio we decided that we would speed it up a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, so we got a lot of flack from him for that, but
reshaping the clay in your own image.
I thought it turned out really well.
So do I. And
And his
voice
vocals
is-
were spectacular.
Oh, yeah, amazing. Love that album. And then tell me about. I got some information just yesterday. I had no idea that you didn't really produce this album.
Now, D. Harrington produced
Perfect
The
Life.
Perfect Life. That was kind of his intro to production work, and we had such a small budget. I mean, and obviously you listen to the album and it's totally awful. The production is just awful. So he didn't get a very fair shake on that.
But there were some good songs on this
There
album.
were some
There were
great
some good
songs
songs on the album.
Yeah.
Then what was next? Is that right?
In the battle.
Which, I mean, the title track is one of my favorites, and I think I learned that. It was on the original set list, and I learned it when we didn't do it. I was really bummed.
Right.
We didn't do this one. But.
Yeah, that song is kind of funny. There's a little funny story behind that. I was playing Barbies with my youngest daughter, Cassie.
As you like to do, you play Barbies a lot.
Well, I mean, she's, 4 years old, so we're sitting at got the coffee table, and she's got her Barbie, and I'm like, dun 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 dun, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go write that down. I gotta record that.
So it's birthed in a Barbie battle.
It was, and she was doing it back this way, and we were headbanging the Barbies, and then, yeah.
You were in the battle, in the Barbie battle. Great album, great album. The Mark.
The Mark, that's probably one of my favorite albums.
Isn't this kind of theologically heavy?
It is.
A lot of theology in this.
It's super heavy. I wish that the production, hindsight 2020, if it had a production that we're doing today, that would be just an unbelievable album. Yeah, I mean, Dee Harrington really did a great job on this. He wrote most of the music on there.
Yeah, it's a great album. It's funny because we have the convenience, like when you when you first contacted me and sent me tracks for Brought It's a Gate. I mean, I was just given these beautiful tracks with no lead guitar.
Right.
And I sat at home and hammered out all the leads.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the convenience, without the pressure
Right.
of an engineer, of people sitting there breathing over your neck, getting nervous.
Well, with with today's technology, as long as you can capture
Right.
good clean tracks,
Right.
and preferably, with no plugins on them,
Right. Just dry.
just dry
Dry
tracks.
tracks.
And they got, you're not like you're not distorting the file.
Yep. Which is what I did a lot of. See, when I first started working with you guys, I would send Jared a file and he'd be like frowny facing me on Facebook. What's this?
Well,
frowny-
Jared does a lot of frowny face.
What's this frowny face, man? This track is killer. Well, you got a couple wavelengths, Cliff. I'd be like, what is he talking about?
Nobody knows.
But I learned I'd be getting better, right?
Well,
They'd be getting better.
The last tracks, I mean, it was really good. On this new album that we're getting ready to put out, it was flawless. Yeah, but back to Jared. Jared, he's got like the cat hearing. He can hear anything and everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was like,
And he would send
do it
me,
again.
he would take a track and send it to me and go, could you hold the last note a little bit longer, please?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got to go back and fix this and hold a note. But, it's all that, because guitar players have a tendency to not let things ring out long enough.
Right.
So I let things ring out long enough now.
Yeah, you do now. Jerry's the same way. Jerry's,
I know, he's the same way.
He was laughing at me a couple of weeks ago when he was doing lead guitar tracks. He goes, "Here, is this long enough for you?" Because, I've been hanging out with Jared for all these years and become more and more like infected with the disease of perfection.
Yeah. It is a disease.
It is, and I mean, it's really tough to let little things go. After working with him and with the productions that we've done in the last few albums.
Yeah, I've learned a lot working with you guys. All right, next up is Crime Scene Earth. Now, this is the album, like, when I went on to look you guys up again, this is the album I think that you had just finished. And I bought it, right? And got it sent to me. And I thought, man, Josh sounds weird. What happened?
Well, this would have been the second time that Josh had other opportunities and decided to to follow those. Unfortunately, it was like in the middle of the production,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I didn't have anybody that could remotely replace him. And because I did all the melodies and everything, I just went ahead and did the vocal tracks.
And you did a good job. But when you're expecting Josh and his like
Yeah.
laser precision,
Right.
you know, and everything that comes with Josh, and I got Crime Scene Earth, I liked the album. I just thought the vocals were weird.
Yeah.
Not bad, just different than what I expected. But then did Josh redo all these tracks at
He
one
did,
point?
and that's
And
the
he did another release.
yeah, retroactive reissued it.
Yeah. And you know, I don't even think I've heard that.
Oh, you haven't?
I don't think so.
wow.
I need to hear that.
Yeah.
But on this original one, because you guys did a cover of Invader,
Right.
did you sing that?
No.
Okay, so even in the original,
Even the original, Josh sang the song "Crime Scene Earth," and he sang "Invader," and I'm trying to think. He may have sang one other song, but I'm not sure what it was.
and I think that
And
might
then,
have been the
woo,
hardest.
Away he went.
That might have been as the
Again.
crow flies.
Yes.
But that might have been what was tripping me out, because I think I remember hearing Invader, and I was like, there he is.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and then I heard these other tracks. I'm like, hey, man, Josh must be going for a new sound. Or he started smoking a really heavy pipe or something. I don't know. All right. I love this album. And I love this album. This might be my favorite album title of Saint.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good album title. Crime Scene Earth. I mean, greatest crime ever committed.
right.
You know, Jesus Christ was railroaded.
hmm
You know, he was crucified. He was sentenced to death.
For everybody.
And all he did was upset the social disorder. I mean, he should be like the one that everybody's looking to. I mean, these people who want to disrupt the social order and you know, are not going with the flow. That was Jesus. He
Right.
did not go with the flow at all.
No.
And it was a great crime. And I think maybe that's why I love that album title so much. And here we go with Hellblade.
Yes. Hellblade. Hellblade came back, and so did Josh.
Yeah. But D left
But D left.
at some point. So I remember I heard this song called Hellblade. I think Josh said it. He said, God, you got to hear this track, you know. And I'm listening to it and just like, yes. But then D left the band and all the music left with him. And so the lyrics were repurposed to another
Right. Well,
track or
I just
something.
that and the Blade. I just kept the lyrics and the melodies and just completely rewrote the music.
Rewrote the music. Yeah, that took me by surprise. I was really, of course, you remember the original music
Kind of.
for.
That was a long time.
It was
ago.
just really cool. I
It was
liked
a great album. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great song. D wrote a lot of really good music.
He was a fabulous guitar player,
Yeah, he
man.
was,
I mean,
definitely.
especially you know, when you consider, we talk about budget, but really what budget means is time. That's
Yeah.
really how that word translates. When you don't have the budget, you don't have the time.
Well, I don't know, when you get back to like albums like Warriors of the Sun, where you had maybe a $2,000 budget, or albums like The Perfect Life, where you might have spent $1,500 on the whole thing, then you're talking money. You're talking budget.
Yes.
Generally speaking, if you want a really good album, in today's technology, you're probably gonna spend $5,000 or $6,000.
Which is dirt cheap.
Yeah, that it
It's
is dirt
still
cheap.
dirt
That
cheap.
doesn't include time, though.
Right. Right. I mean, if I would have billed Armor Records billable hours for all the time.
Oh
that I
my gosh, I would not be able to afford it.
But you know, I'm at home at my leisure,
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about earlier. So yeah, Hellblade. And you have a lot of interesting. I mean, you guys did some killer videos.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with videos.
You had some great videos from this album that you can find on YouTube. What did you do videos for? Hellblade,
We did.
right?
No, we did the Blade.
The Blade. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
yeah,
we did
Blade.
the New World Order.
Right. And the Blade is just I think it's a top-notch video.
Yeah, it
was
turned
a
out pretty
great
nice.
job.
Turned out pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Martin Scorsese directed it or something. Desperate Nights. Tell me about this album.
Well, this album, again, Josh comes back. Well, he actually didn't leave yet. And about 3/4 of the way in, he said, well, I have to leave again. And that's when Brian Miller came in.
Mm-hmm.
And so
We'll get to
Brian
that
Miller,
here in a minute.
we brought him in to do the song Desperate Night. And then, of course, he went and did the next album as well.
But Brian did the video for that too, didn't he? Didn't you do a video for Desperate Night?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. And then
He brought an interesting look to the band and sound. I really like Brian. I really like
he's a great singer.
And it's funny, what you guys don't realize is that we did that album and I'd met Brian like once
oh wow,
for the photo shoot.
right.
That was it.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
once.
how many times have you met the guys in the band in the last 7 years?
Very little.
Very
I
little.
spent a lot of time with you.
Yeah,
And then I spent, I hooked up with Jerry when we did the Seattle gig,
right.
and loved him. Just loved Jerry. He's just a great guy, It's just like, talks about anything, really, And Jared, of course, the crazy Viking. we had to drive all the way down to Anaheim.
Right.
Me and you and Josh, all. Jerry didn't go. We did that without Jerry.
Right.
And I tracked the guitars. I tracked the rhythm track.
Right.
And I remember because people saw the video, they're like, "Where's Jerry?" Because they could hear another guitar. I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah, that's me."
Well, sometimes you just gotta have a backing track.
I know. But yeah, that's just kind of an interesting side note is the fact that we're all in different. Well, I'm in up in Idaho, and these guys are all down here. I come down here at least a couple times a year. We're actually here right now.
Right.
I'm in Oregon right now, fighting with salesmen at what's that place called? There's Broad in the Gate. Hot Topic. Okay, so this is Broad as the Gate, and this is of course Brian's album, and this is a great album. I really loved the tracks when I first got them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was, it took us back to, a lot of the roots, but then it also had some changes. We did some keyboard work in Never Same.
Yep. And Jared wrote Demon Pill.
Right. He wrote Demon Pill and he wrote We Will Fight.
Yeah. Which you did a video for.
Right. But yeah, it was, probably would have been better if we would have added a couple more tracks to it. It definitely had some different sounding, other than Saint style.
Definitely.
To it. So there was some criticism, but overall it was a good album. And do you really want every album to sound the same?
No.
Yeah.
No. But you have to experiment.
You do.
Yeah. But no, that was a great album. It was different. It was more, I think it was, up to this point, one of the best produced Saint albums.
Yeah, it was.
In my opinion.
Right.
And I think that's probably because we were just getting into the home production, the home studio production.
Right.
It was really starting to work for everybody because I did all these solos in my little shed, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I did these at home. So someone did Jerry beat me up all the time. Now we get to the cat.
The Cat. Now I have to correct you. I think the Cat is probably the best studio production.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that Broad as a Gate was another level. To me, it was another level from the previous.
Oh yeah.
From the previous albums.
The
at
Cat.
that point.
And the Cat, we kind of went, I hate to say it, but back to our roots. Every band, they experiment and they do this, and then they go back to the roots. And I always say, well, why did he even leave the roots? Well, because you don't want every album to sound the same.
Well, you get bored too.
You do.
You get bored. But no, the Cat's a great album, and I actually got a couple writing credits on this album.
Yeah, you did.
So I wrote 2 of the songs. I keep looking over here because this is our monitors off to the side over here. So if you notice, Rich and I are looking off. That's what we're looking at.
You probably should have got some credit on there for Fragile, and definitely Another Day as well. Just because of the signatures of
I put
of the
my
lead work.
thumbprint on them sometimes. I'm like that feral cat that comes into the yard and just starts to leave his mark on everything.
Yes, yes, you are.
All right. And now,
Oh, well, we didn't talk about Dave Nelson.
yeah, we got to talk about Dave. So let's talk about Dave.
Super Dave. He came in. Jerry actually told me about Dave, and we went to. There was a band local in the area called Mr. Wizard, and they were playing at Spirit Mountain Casino.
And that's what I called Dave for a long time.
Oh,
Remember, I'd say, "How's Mr. Wizard doing?"
oh, that's right. Yes.
And
Mr.
I thought that
Wizard.
was his name or his nickname or something. He's like, "No, that's the name of the band."
So we went and watched him, and but Jerry told me about him, and was really impressed. And I listened to him sing like 3 songs, and I'm like, we got to get this guy.
Yeah, he embodied the spirit of Saint.
Yes.
That's how I see it. I mean, I remember when this is kind of veering from the Saint or from the Calf, because I started writing stuff, sending it to you, and I sent you a song that ended up being called "The Chosen One,"
Right.
and that was a song that I wrote literally in like 30 minutes or 40 minutes,
Right.
because you just told me to start using Reaper.
Mhm.
And I plugged in Reaper and I had it going, and I was checking guitar tones and listening, and I started playing these tracks, and I thought, this is really good. So I finished it up and I sent it to Richard. Like within 2 days, you sent it back to me, or he sent it back to me with these vocals. And I'm like, my goodness, where has this guy been my whole life? It's just like perfect. He's a perfect match.
Yeah, he is.
And we've written some great music together.
Well, this next album will have 11 songs on it, and he wrote all of the lyrics and the melodies for it. I didn't
On
have
all
the-
of them?
All of them.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't have any input.
That must
Well,
be
very
weird.
little input.
That must be weird for you.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just got to give up things. It goes back to the idea that I don't want every album to sound the same.
And sometimes the Godfather's got to just kick back and
Well, you got to
let
let
the minions run free.
Yeah, you got to let everybody, tear down the town.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's got great phrasing, great power, great, I mean, diversity in his.
He's got the
textures.
gruffiest voice, but he's also got the prettiest voice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once I heard that, I was kind of inspired. That was about a year ago,
Mhm.
I think. And I wrote.
Well, when the Calf came out, I mean, it wasn't, but a month later, we started writing for the new album.
Right. And we're already writing for the next album.
We
after
are.
That.
We're like
pretty
3 or 4 songs into the
deep
next album.
into
It's,
that
like-
already.
it's ridiculous.
And it's all happening kind of very organically, to where my approach is, sit down and play guitar and record it and do a little arranging, send it off to you guys.
Right.
And then you fine tune it, send it back to me. And yeah, so that's, I like talking about, I don't know, it might be boring for a lot of people who aren't musicians, but the writing process, the creative process is always really interesting to me.
Yeah.
But what's nice is when it's not labored. That's
Yeah.
what's nice.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just like,
when it's fun too.
yeah. And that's when
you
it's
can feel the
good.
excitement in the music.
Yeah.
To where it's something you labored over. Usually, you think it's terrible by the time it's done. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many songs I've thrown away in my life
Right.
that are just like, no.
And they might have been great.
They may have.
But it's like when you get into a song and you start writing it, and you could finish it and have it all done, and it could be a great song, but the next day you go to listen to it and you don't like it.
Right.
And there it goes in the trash can.
And the trash it goes.
And it could have been the sound of silence. Who knows? So what I like to do whenever I do interviews. Is there anything else? I mean, that you want to talk about as far as the band goes? New album. Let's just talk about the new album. Do you want to reveal the name of the album? Do you want to hold that back? Do we have a release date?
Well, release dates, I mean,
we have a time.
those are just really hard to come. I mean, the timeline is by summertime.
Okay.
Okay, sometime in the summer.
Sometime before September.
Right. That's
Reasonable.
pretty reasonable, pretty safe to say. I mean, the whole thing is done as far as the recording end of it. There's some editing that needs to take place.
But Dave's done, right?
Dave's done.
I'm done.
But his vocal tracks aren't comped yet.
Gotcha.
You know, so a lot of that stuff has to be done. You know, and Jared, he's a busy guy, so he fits this stuff in, you know, when he can.
Between his country gigs.
Well, yeah, he plays in a country band. He also has another band that he's been working on, and he's building a new studio from the ground up. So, and that's, you know, I mean, he's building the building and everything.
Yeah, I know.
So that's, you know, that type of stuff takes a lot of time.
As long as I get my job done,
yeah,
I'm pretty happy. Then I can wait and let everybody else do their thing.
Right.
That's
and then there's, of course, the unimportant things like he has a wife and kids, and
yeah,
he works at the church, you know, those kinds of things.
Gotcha. Yep. So now what I like to do is I'm going to take a look at the Saint Facebook page. So there we are. This picture was taken down in Albany.
Yep.
And this was for the calf.
Yep.
This was just a photo shoot we got together. And I want people to know that you have a lot of kind of fresh prints of some of the albums.
Yeah, Retro put out Too Late for Living and Times End on vinyl recently, and then they did the gold discs of Too Late for Living.
Yeah, those are really cool. Here.
And Times End. And I believe that Matt Hunt is planning on reissuing quite a few of the other ones.
Who's this guy?
Oh,
who is this guy with the short hair?
Yeah, that guy.
He looks familiar, but I'm not sure I've ever met him.
She should probably be fired.
And this guy too.
And that guy. I mean,
they should both probably go.
Who wears red pants?
I wear red pants. You know who wears red pants?
Glenn Tipton.
Yes. So don't get started with me. There's Jerry.
There's Jerry.
Wearing his derby. What's up with this?
You know, I don't know. Jerry likes
his haircut.
Well, I think that he likes to poke people's eyes out.
You know,
it's just because I wear I have those pointed guitars.
This is his defense.
Right, that's his defense mechanism.
I had a guitar like that when I was in a band in high school, and the string hit my bass player in the eye, and I saw a blue spark from the ground or whatever. You know how you can touch stuff.
Right.
And he's like, bah! From my string in the eye. And I think that might be the last time I ever did it. And of course, here's this guy, you know.
Yes.
There's Dave. Look at that hair. Oh my.
Yeah, he's got pretty hair.
Yes, he does. He did a great job. He was tasked with singing the old Saint stuff.
Yes, he was.
I mean, I don't think we did any of our new material.
I think
for this show, did we?
Fragile.
Yeah, that's right. We did Fragile.
I think we did Fragile. Did we do Stormy Night?
I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
This was my dream gig though, because I was playing. We did Phantom of the Galaxy.
Right.
We did Too Late for Living. We did all those classic Saint songs that I love. So that was a lot of fun for me. Oh, there's us crabbing. So this is what's fun about Facebook. Richard has a little boat. He likes to take me out crabbing. And this is one of our catches. And yeah, good stuff. I love this picture because that's the day Josh was with us.
Yes, and this is right. We were rehearsing at the beach house. And
that's
we
right.
went. Yeah, we were here for like a week.
Yeah.
Rehearsing in the living room. And the neighbors would walk by and listen and stuff. That was funny. But that was when we went down and did the Southern Cal show.
Yeah, we managed to get out on the boat and do some crabbing. And we made crabby cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good time. Hellblade. What's this? Underground series. Yeah,
the Rocks Production put that out.
Okay.
And I think they only did like 200 pressings of it. So it's a rare find.
Yeah, that's cool. Then, of course, you have a variety of different types of products.
This is Beyond the Rift. and I believe that was we did a
And there's Brian. It
yeah,
was Brian Miller, and I wasn't in the band at this time.
right.
I don't think. Real close though, because look at the date. That's the year I joined. 2013.
Right.
Is that an interview or what was
That was an interview, and Brian, he's not. I don't think he's doing the Beyond the Rift thing anymore.
Okay. Just reamping, just stuff in the studio.
Yeah. There's Larry London.
Yeah, yeah. He played with you guys when I came down to the Grand.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God, he's phenomenal.
Guy's crazy.
Just
Good.
crazy good. This is a little Saint thing. All right, now we're getting. This is kind of the stuff we're gonna kind of wrap things up here in a few minutes, but this is it. I mean, to me, you guys were like the first Christian metal band. I can't think of anybody that was metal before Saint. Was there anybody?
Well, not like that. You know, I mean, we were, Black Sabbath meets Judas Priest, basically.
Right.
And it's just, they're your traditional, let's call it British style metal.
Sure.
It wasn't the American type
Well, back
glam,
then, I mean, it
glam
was,
type rock.
yeah, because that was like Quiet Riot
Right,
and that kind of stuff.
right.
Yeah.
So there was a big
Yeah.
difference between, what
Look
we
at
did
you.
and
Oh.
say what Stryper did.
All those curls. Yeah, so this is just always fun.
Unfortunately for us, the girl music outsells the guy music.
Always. Yeah. Here's me. Here's me in the studio doing. I did the tracks at home, and Jared's like, "We cannot have that track."
Right. What
didn't
was
like
that
it.
song? That was an acoustic.
God is God.
Yes, the
Is that
beginning
the
of God.
intro?
Yeah, that's the intro.
That's the one I wrote, by the way. The one that I wrote. And I brought my classical guitar up, my handmade classical guitar. Here's Dave laying out some vocals. Is that a mask?
No,
Was he doing a mask before masks were cool?
Yeah, that's a
Get
big
a
mask.
giant mask.
That's a big mask.
Is that like a vocal reflection thing or something?
Yeah.
Here's Jared working away. Look at these monitors. What the heck? I mean, do you really need all that?
Well, yeah, because you get different sounds out of different monitors.
Oh, there's the white.
Yeah.
So the Beatles had a white album, and so did Saint.
Well, yes. I mean, it should be that way.
And what, like I said, back to products. If you want to support Richard, support the band, go to the website. You can buy all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure what this is. A playlist.
Yep, that's a playlist.
This is before, like, this is kind of what they look like when we're getting them. Jerry knew. Stuff like that. It's got titles. And I write, it's funny because I'll put a title on a song. I can't even think of which one it was. I'll put a title on a song and then Dave will run with it.
Right.
I think Cain. What was the Cain one? Exile of Cain.
Yeah.
I wrote a song called Exile of Cain because I was reading the book of Genesis. It really had nothing to do with anything. And he made a song out of that title.
Right.
Which was awesome. I just used thoughts. There's Brought Us the Gate. Who's this?
That is Kevin Nedlingham, and that is where we do all of our mastering up in Vancouver.
Okay. Yeah. I know you guys. See, so it's really important to not master your own stuff.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, but you can mix it. Jared mixed it.
Jared mixes
You
it.
guys kind of mixed it together.
The funny thing is like this new stuff we're working on right now, this new album. The first time that he heard any of it was when we started recording the vocal tracks. We'd had all these songs laid out because he wants to have fresh ears on it.
That's a good picture of Brian. That's what I mean. Brian brought a kind of an edgy look to the band. Kind of a modern, kind of an edgy. I mean, he's a great looking guy. He wears a little eye makeup.
I think we were all kind of made up on that one.
Yeah. But that's Brian. He did a great job. And, I go through and I read what, the critics say about the albums, and nothing bad about him, really. Here's Jerry with his Billy Idol hairdo.
Yes.
There's
That was
Josh.
That was in Puerto Rico.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that was a fun show.
All right, well, let's see here. And then we saw that. Okay, we didn't see this.
Oh, that features Tim Lamberson on the far right, right after we did The Perfect Flop and and the re-recording of Warriors of the Sun.
Yeah, so 2005
Yeah,
ish.
yeah,
We talked about that earlier because that's the same year I think we both got into digital
right,
recording.
right.
I remember, I sold my house and I had some money and I was like, maybe I'll give this digital stuff a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Spent $5,000. That's a ton of money.
That's a lot of money for
a guy
digital.
like
Yeah.
me. And I got Pro Tools
Mm-hmm.
and a nice computer, and I remember wanting to return everything because it was just so weird.
Yeah,
You-
it's pretty overwhelming to learn all of the stuff.
I bought it from Sweetwater Sound,
Uh huh.
and I've been working with Steve Isham from Autograph at the time, Tom
Right.
Pace, and they were like, "Yeah, dude, you got to get Pro Tools, and you got to do this." And they kind of like were dragging me into the. I'm like, "Look, I got my Fostex 4-track, my 4-track, my Fostex. I'm good." No, and so I got this Pro Tool set up in 2005, and I remember getting it. I couldn't figure out inputs, couldn't get a line, I couldn't do anything, couldn't get any monitor sound, couldn't do anything, and it's all on this computer screen. I called the guy, I said, "I'm sending everything back. This is a bunch of garbage." And he goes, "No," he goes, "Listen, trust me. He goes, "Just give it a little more time." He goes, they actually set a time to set me up with a technician to step by step walk me through getting a signal and actually recording something.
Right. Yeah, they held your hand.
They did.
That was nice.
And that was the same year this picture was taken, which I think is very interesting. And then, of course, these are some old. So here we have John, right?
Yes.
Josh.
John
And-
Korean, who is another monster drummer.
And who's this guy?
Well, of course, that's me.
That's
I'm Richard Lynch.
Richard Lynch. So, yeah, this has been fun, Rich. I mean, I'm a huge Saint fan, so it's like really an honor and a privilege to be playing with you and writing with you.
Yeah, what's it like to play in like one of your favorite bands? All of a sudden now you're playing in a band that you always liked. And
It's bizarre.
yeah, it's got to be kind of weird.
It's still kind of weird. It was really weird when, before I started working with you, when Josh came up.
Right.
Remember? So, because I called Josh and said, Josh actually had this thing with some Australian record company that they were doing that.
Oh, what was a Templar or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. And he's like, "Oh man, I really want you to do this with me." And Josh and I became pretty good friends before I
Right.
really met you. And we were like hanging out, writing and doing stuff together. And so I said, "Just come stay up at Priest Lake with me."
Right.
And he came up. And it was bizarre to be sitting in the same room with Josh Kramer.
And then, time went by and it was just John.
And then I couldn't wait to throw him out. Just kidding. No, we love Josh, and it was and then of course that kind of to have Josh. He was a guest at my house, and we were just becoming friends. But the one thing that was most overwhelming about having Josh around was his talent level.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, we did some gigs. We did some cover gigs. And you throw an acoustic guitar on the guy,
Oh man.
and he'll just Chattanooga choo choo. He'll start doing all kinds of stuff.
I mean, what he did on In the Battle there, the song he wrote on there, what was that? The very last song. I can't remember the name of it. But it was a beautiful introduction. And then that went into that heavy song at the end of the album. I mean, he did such a great job. He played all that. He played all the leads.
Yeah, he's that, and that's one of the things about that, and just having him. It's like he's here in my house. Like, all these people are just normal, everyday people, for the most part. We all have our families. We all have our hopes. We all have our dreams. We all have our desires. You know, we all have our struggles, you know, and everybody has the same basic human needs,
Right.
you know. And I'm thinking I'm going to be needing some dinner here pretty soon. Speaking of
Basic needs.
basic needs. So, yeah, this has been great. Any final words? I mean, did we forget anything? Is there anything you want to lay out?
No, I think that we covered everything.
We did pretty good.
Yeah.
The new album will be out. Do you want to reveal
I
the
think the
name of the album? We haven't revealed the name of the album.
Tentatively, the name of the album is Heaven Fell.
Heaven Fell, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like the angels fell at the beginning, but it's Heaven Fell when heaven comes down and rules on the earth.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
You know, I mean, it's kind of a saint theme, apocalyptic metal.
Right.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what you've always done.
Yep.
And it's like, I was kind of almost, I mean, a couple things, God has used a few things in my life, which is really weird because we talked about the Word of Faith movement
Right.
earlier, and it's really under attack right now for whatever reason. Lots of good reasons, I guess. But, you know, it's like we were saying, you know, Christ is preached, and we rejoice on that.
Right.
In spite of maybe what's behind it.
Yeah, you get off on, there's so many different doctrines, and each group of people, you know, they tend to believe that they're the ones that are correct. When the reality is the only real correct person to follow is Jesus. It's not following a doctrine or a belief
pastor,
or a pastor or a
doc-
belief system.
Right. Or, yeah, people they follow their doctrines more than they follow Christ.
Oh, they do.
They get really tied into their doctrine.
Yeah.
But, you know, Christian music has been one of the definite anchors of my life. Listening to Christian music. You know, Stryper, Bloodgood, Saint, and even back, you know, Red's Band and Petra, you know, all those bands, you know, thank God for them. I mean, they brought me kicking and screaming into my 50s and still following Christ.
Oh, yeah.
And,
when that first Resband album came out, I was just ecstatic. It was such a great album.
yeah, yeah. I saw them at Calvary Chapel in Spokane.
Oh, yeah.
It was so surreal.
Yeah.
Because I always like took these bands and put them way up here, you know.
Right.
Like they're just beyond. And same with you, you know. Same with Stryper. A lot of these bands, they're bigger than life. I follow Michael Sweet on Facebook, by the way.
Too bad we don't have any Gars right now. You know what I mean?
And he was just such a sweet guy, just a nice guy. And you know, it's funny because it's like he wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere.
Right.
You know, have you ever met somebody famous and they're like
Yeah.
talking to you and looking around the room like you can't wait to get away from this
Right.
guy?
How do I get out of here?
That's kind of how you were when I met you. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably.
You remember the first time I met you, where we were?
Wasn't it at the Grand Theater?
It was at the Grand Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were very, very busy.
That was
Very busy. And I got to know your kids too.
Yeah.
We fought over a backstage pass.
Right.
I was like, no way, man. She's like, you got to give that back. I'm like, yeah, come and get it. And she grabbed it and I held it. Was that Nikki? Who was that?
That was Rozzy.
Was that Rozzy I was fighting with? Yeah. I still have it.
Yeah, well, you don't need to get rid of it now. You might need it again.
Anyway, I think we covered everything. So thank you for sitting down with me. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the new album.
Me too. You know what we should do?
What?
Tonight, we should play it.